Nicolás Maduro is in a federal jail cell in Brooklyn tonight. So is his wife. Cilia Flores wasn't just the First Lady of Venezuela. U.S. prosecutors say she was the other half of the operation, the one who helped run the machine from the inside. 72 hours ago, they controlled a nation. Now they're both facing narco-terrorism charges in a Manhattan courtroom. But Washington isn't celebrating yet, because the real question isn't about Caracas anymore. It's about who's watching, who's calculating, and who might be next. In Colombia, President Gustavo Petro just told Donald Trump, "Come get me, I'm waiting." In Havana, 32 Cuban soldiers came home in body bags, and the regime is already using it to tighten its grip. And inside what's left of Maduro's government, a woman named Delcy Rodriguez is walking a razor's edge between defiance and survival. The operation that took down Maduro and Flores sent a shockwave across the hemisphere. But the real story isn't what the US just did. It's who's testing the limits of American power right now, and how far Washington is willing to go. The speed of what happened is still hard to process. On Friday night, Nicolás Maduro was inside the presidential palace in Caracas. By Saturday morning, he was in U.S. custody aboard the USS Iwo Jima. By Sunday, he was in a detention facility in New York, the same jail holding Luigi Mangione. The operation was called Absolute Resolve. Delta Force led the assault. The FBI's hostage rescue team handled extraction. A CIA team had been tracking Maduro's movements since August, with help from a source inside his inner circle. According to federal officials, Maduro was not guarded by Venezuelans. He was guarded by Cubans. Secretary of State Marco Rubio confirmed it publicly. Cuban operatives ran Maduro's personal security and internal intelligence. They were the ones who decided who could be trusted and who couldn't. 32 of them died in the raid. Cuba declared 2 days of national mourning. The state newspaper ran their photos under the headline, "Honor and Glory." But here's what's getting less attention. Cilia Flores was captured in the same operation. She appeared in court Monday with a large bruise on her forehead. Her lawyers say she may have broken ribs. She pleaded not guilty, just like her husband. Prosecutors say she wasn't a bystander. The indictment describes her as part of a corrupt government structure that leveraged state power to protect drug trafficking operations for decades. She faces the same narco-terrorism charges, the same potential sentence. Maduro told the judge he's still the president of Venezuela. Flores told the court she's still the First Lady. The judge scheduled their next hearing for March. Now let's talk about what's happening outside that courtroom, because the reaction across Latin America is not unified, and it's not quiet. Start with Colombia. President Gustavo Petro condemned the operation within hours. He called it a violation of Venezuelan sovereignty and a dangerous precedent for the entire region. He mobilized troops to the border. He called for an emergency session of the UN Security Council. But here's where it gets personal. After Trump warned that Colombia could be next, calling Petro a sick man who likes making cocaine, the Colombian president fired back. On X, he wrote, "Come get me, I'm waiting for you here." He said he'd take up arms again if the US attacked his country, a reference to his past as a member of the M19 guerrilla movement. Trump responded by telling reporters Petro should watch his ass. This isn't diplomatic tension. This is an open confrontation between two heads of state, one of whom just proved he's willing to use military force to remove a foreign leader. But analysts say Petro is walking a very fine line. Publicly, he's playing to his ideological base, the left-wing voters who see US intervention as imperialism. Privately, he hasn't broken any actual ties with Washington. No sanctions, no expelled diplomats, no severed intelligence cooperation. Colombia depends on the United States for trade, for military support, for help fighting the very drug cartels Trump accuses Petro of protecting. So the question becomes, is Petro actually willing to go to war with Washington? Or is this performance, loud rhetoric designed to buy time and political cover? Right now, no one in Bogota seems to know the answer. Then there's Cuba. If Maduro's fall was a blow to Caracas, it was a catastrophe for Havana. For more than 2 decades, Venezuela has been Cuba's lifeline. Oil shipments, cash, political support. Hugo Chavez once said Cuba and Venezuela weren't two countries. They were La Gran Patria, the one homeland. Maduro continued that alliance. Cuban advisors embedded themselves in Venezuela's government, military, and intelligence services. Cuban doctors staffed Venezuelan hospitals. Cuban operatives protected Maduro himself. Now that's gone. President Miguel Díaz-Canel responded the way Havana always responds, with ideology. He called the operation state terrorism. He accused the U.S. of trying to redraw the political map of Latin America by force. He warned that Cuba would not back down, but behind the rhetoric, the regime is facing something it hasn't dealt with in years: real exposure. Cuba's economy is already collapsing. Blackouts are constant. Food shortages are worsening. Millions are on the edge of malnutrition. Now, with their most important ally removed from power, there's no safety net left. And Secretary Rubio made it clear, Havana is on Washington's radar. If I were them, he told NBC, I'd be very concerned. So what does Cuba do now? According to analysts, the regime is using Maduro's capture to justify a crackdown. Tighter internal controls, more surveillance, more repression, all under the banner of defending against imperialist aggression. It's a playbook they've used before, and they're using it again. But perhaps the most uncertain situation is unfolding inside Venezuela itself. Delcy Rodriguez is now the acting president. She was sworn in Monday by her own brother, the head of the National Assembly. Maduro's son stood beside her holding a copy of the Constitution. The defense minister and interior minister, both longtime Maduro loyalists, were in attendance. On the surface, it looked like continuity, the regime holding together. But the cracks are already showing. Rodriguez has sent mixed signals since the operation. On Saturday night, she called Maduro's capture barbaric and demanded his immediate release. She insisted he's still Venezuela's only president. Then, on Sunday, she struck a different tone. She offered to collaborate with the Trump administration. She spoke of respectful relations. Trump noticed. He told The Atlantic that Rodriguez was willing to do what we think is necessary to make Venezuela great again. But he also issued a warning. If she doesn't do what's right, she is going to pay a very big price, probably bigger than Maduro. So what is Rodriguez actually doing? According to sources familiar with the situation, she's trying to hold the regime together long enough to figure out her next move. The military has publicly backed her, for now. The courts have legitimized her, for now. But the pressure is immense. The opposition is waiting. Washington is watching. And inside her own government, there are people who may already be looking for a way out. Rodriguez is a survivor. She's been in the Chavista movement for 2 decades. She ran Venezuela's intelligence services. She oversaw its oil industry. She knows where the bodies are buried, some of them literally. But surviving Maduro's shadow is one thing. Surviving Donald Trump's attention is something else entirely. Here's the bigger picture. What happened in Venezuela wasn't just a raid, it was a statement. The Trump administration made clear that it's willing to use military force to remove leaders it considers threats, regardless of what the international community thinks. Russia condemned the operation. China called it a blatant violation of sovereignty. Brazil's president said it crossed an unacceptable line. The UN Security Council held an emergency session. None of it changed the outcome. Maduro is in custody. Flores is in custody. And the message has been received from Bogota to Havana to every capital in the hemisphere. The question now is what comes next. Will Washington push for regime change in Cuba? Will Trump follow through on his threats against Petro? Will Delcy Rodriguez become a U.S. partner or end up in the cell next to Maduro? No one knows for certain. But one thing is becoming clear. The rules that governed Latin American politics for the past 30 years are changing, fast, and the leaders who misjudge this moment may not get a second chance.